Hi everyone and welcome to the IronQuest feedback call. Today I'm lucky to be joined by Simon Beaumont. So, hi Simon.
Hey Sarah, hey everyone.
How are you?
I am very well, thank you.
Good.
Looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, me too. It's currently Friday here, and it's going to rain all weekend apparently. So, yeah. Thanks for being my co-host this month. It's been really exciting. So obviously we've had the Sports with Sunday IronQuest collaboration, which I think it's fair to say was a huge success for both projects. Do you agree?
I was pretty overwhelmed and in awe of the amount of submissions we had. It was phenomenal, and it was throughout the month, and there were so many different topics. It was just really fun to see everyone's different takes on sports.
Yeah, I actually did some analysis on the number of sports visualized. So I think we had over about 11 or 12 different sports. And surprisingly, like, they weren't all about football. I mean, you had everything from like frisbee, 10-pin bowling, tennis was a big one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a real nice variety.
Yeah, and also from all over the world as well. So it's just really nice to see all the global community come together and.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah, it was really fun. So let's get straight into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the quizzes today that people requested feedback for. We've got 20 to go through. So let's get started. So Simon, if you want to just follow along on the screen or on your own laptop. So the first one we're looking at is by Alex Powell, and it's a history of Premier League broadcasting.
Yeah, so first reflections for me is so for those that aren't familiar with the Premier League, Alex took the colours that were quite recognisable for the Premier League. Mm-hmm. And I felt that was quite a nice take on it in terms of keeping it consistent all the way through, and I really like the story as well.
Yeah, it's the logo lion, isn't it? You're referring to yeah. No, it's nice. It's an overall nice design. While there's quite a lot of text, I think it still works really well.
I'd agree, and I think,
and it's an interesting topic because it always. I know my husband's a massive football fan, and he gets really annoyed when their games aren't shown on Sky. Because obviously they have to bid for them, right? The Sky and BT and.
And like, for those that love football in the UK, I think it's it's an energising topic because I refuse to pay subscriptions for more than Sky as well. So I know where people are coming from on that.
Yeah. So anything you would change? I'm just looking.
Top. I just couldn't necessarily see. So the different colours of the greens that are in all of the charts.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it really popped in terms of, so when you go down to the stacked bars, you get the different shades of green.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to see the two different ones. So like Sky and Satana. Yeah. Like in 2007 to 2010, you almost missed the Satana piece.
Yeah, I just wondered whether there was any, if you like, obvious legend about what the different shades of green related to.
No, I don't think there are. I think it might work quite well if he put a border around each of the sections, so you could keep the colours as they are, but then just separate them out a little bit more, so you've got a distinct cut between each one. Yeah. There isn't anywhere that you're right. That's.
Can you just check on the question mark on the
running costs?
I really like the flow of the story, and I agree with the text, but actually I think it worked really well because especially with it being a subject I'm passionate about, I really connected with the text and the detail. But yeah, the only thing that really stood out to me was just it wasn't immediately obvious what the different shades of green meant. So legend in some way.
In the text would work fine up here. He mentions all of the individual broadcasters, just highlighting those in that colour.
I think that's something Cole Netflix recommends in her blog a lot in terms of storytelling with data around no need for a legend, embed it in the text. And I think in this instance, you're right, it would work really well doing that.
Yeah. But no, I really like it, and it's a really interesting story. There's one thing I would change is in the tooltip. Let me just find the one that I've got to sort it on. So the tooltip of the bottom chart, the decimal places on the percentages, so the percentage of total match broadcast, is 2. I don't think it needs to be that precise. I think I'd remove them all together. It seems to be all right on the one above. That's down to 1. Yeah. And
can you just scroll up a bit?
So I didn't know you were looking at my screen, Simon. I'm not scrolling up and down.
Yeah, that's right. That's cool. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it has got the highlight broadcasters option, but yeah, I just think putting in a legend would just make it a little bit cleaner.
Yeah. Cool. I didn't know there were that many, to be honest. Amazon. No.
Yeah, they only just started. I think they only won it this year, so I think they've got a couple over Christmas.
Okay, it's good to know. I've got Amazon. Okay, right. Moving on to the next one.
Hubby will be happy when he gets to watch Premier League games.
When he watches Arsenal lose, yeah. Just what I need over Christmas.
Hopefully he doesn't listen to the Viz review then.
I try and go out when Arsenal are playing. It's painful to watch.
I have to say, this was one of the ones that really grabbed my attention. Early in the day. I think the design of it was incredibly thought-provoking and quite attention-grabbing.
Yes, this is by Alexander Varlamov, who's incredibly talented when it comes to Tableau. He's always doing crazy visualizations. It was really good to see something a little bit different, I think, with this one. And it did spark quite a bit of a debate on Twitter, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So I think this was, again, one of the ones, I think recently someone put a tweet out to kind of say, in business, then it's best to use bar charts. But when you want to grab your friend's attention with something like sports data, be creative, because that's what gets them engaged. And this was the kind of viz that immediately came to mind in that, because even though there may be other ways of presenting it, actually, if Alexander was trying to create a thought-provoking, attention-grabbing, get people engaged, I think actually probably the Viz type achieved that.
Yeah. You get a real clear sense of the players as well in this Viz type, and it looks really engaging as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice, I thought it was a really creative take on, if you like, because you could call it a small multiple for want of a better term.
Yeah.
And
I liked how he's used a heat map though, because it could even be just on a scatter plot, but the heat map just really brings it to life. Yeah,
and I thought the colour of the density with the dark background, again, really made it pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and quite an interesting take on, I guess, what fundamentally is a ternary plot, done as a density.
Density, yeah, definitely. Personally, I wouldn't change anything about this.
The only thing, I think Alexander may kill me when I say this, because I'm not sure how easy it would be to do. But the only thing I wondered is the number of games that each sportsman played is different, and I didn't know if there was any ability to change the size of the triangle to reflect the number of games. So if you look at something like DeMarcus Cousins,
he's only got 48.
48 games, but his triangle is, if you like, the same size as others.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if that might be a slight additional coding that you could place in terms of something to try and reflect the number of games that someone's played.
You could, but I don't know if that's going to detract from the overall kind of design.
I was torn between whether or not it was needed or not, but at the end of the day, Alexander still put it in as a label, so you can still very easily see it.
Yeah, no, fair point. Okay. I'll move on to the next one, if I can. So I have this stupid menu that covers up the tab that I need to look at. Move it. Okay, so the next viz is by All In. So I think there's someone behind this, obviously, but I don't know what their name is, but it's been branded as All In. And it's looking at gender equality in sports in Europe.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot to this. So we have like an overall kind of like homepage.
Yeah, so I thought this was quite interesting because I almost saw this as a little bit, and I mean this in a positive way, of a bit like a research project.
Yeah,
Someone's
definitely.
actually taken the time to write the context on the front page.
Yeah,
And I thought that was really well done in terms of setting the scene on the front page. So it's not a dashboard, it is more like an exploratory paper.
yeah, absolutely. And it's good that this explains how you can use the dashboards and everything as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of background. Then we've got
And
individual tabs. So if you look at leadership.
Yeah.
So you can really like dive in and drill into the detail.
Yeah.
If I look at,
yeah, I thought the
let's choose France. So I want to see what it does. Does that work? Yeah. Okay, so it just filters the bottom. Okay.
But I thought it was quite a nice take on the bar charts at the bottom in terms of where you've got both the. I mean, you could suggest that the use of the male and female person icon,
Yeah,
is a little bit redundant because it's replicating every time. So I guess if you wanted to make it a little bit cleaner, you could take that out and just put men and women in the title because it is above it. So it might be a way of just reducing some of the ink on the page.
true. Yeah, I do like how they haven't used like the traditional blue and pink for the genders, which is good.
I also quite like the colour scale that they've done on the map in terms of, again, it's just not the traditional blue and red. And I thought it worked quite well.
Yeah, definitely. I really like this. This almost like what we call this radar chart over here.
I was trying to work out what the name of it would be. So I guess it's a kind of almost like a spoke chart where each of the circles doesn't necessarily represent anything other than it's an individual element of the analysis.
Yeah, I don't know if it. I mean, would you colour that? Like, would you colour the individual circles based on their value to make them pop a little bit more?
I don't know.
Keep them all the same size. I don't know.
I'm torn. I mean, I did like the fact that actually it was quite an intuitive use of real estate. I thought because there were so many options. By doing this radio, it didn't take up too much of the screen.
Yeah, no. I'd probably move it over to the left a little bit if you could, because I can't scroll left and right on this, well, not unless I scroll all the way down. So because I've filtered for a country, I've got a lot of white space, and I'd have to go all the way here and then go up to see it. So I'd probably move it over here a little bit, and then get rid of the scrolling from left to right if you can. But I think you're going to struggle because of all the sport icons, which I love, by the way. Great.
I think they even, to be fair to the person that did it, I think they look like the Olympic sport icons as well. So they've really gone to effort to use icons that would be relatable for people.
Yeah, I mean, they've even got like pentathlon, which is
Yeah.
super detailed. Okay, let me just go back through some of the other tabs. So we've got coaching. So it's stuck my filter stayed, which is good. Okay, so it's a similar breakdown.
This is some of the stuff that I really seen. So Chris Dixon and I have been recently looking at trying to do a viz to look at ethnic minorities or ethnic backgrounds of referees, and it's just football, and it's a very similar style of kind of actually showing the imbalance. I love how you can explore different sectors of it. So go from leadership to coaching to participation.
Yeah.
It kind of it naturally leads on because you start at the top and then you work your way through the coaches, then you work the way through the people that participate, and then you look at the media and the policies. I think it was really well thought out in terms of that structure.
It really is, yeah. So they've even broken up the sports into like winter and summer.
Yeah, and I know the purpose of Iron Quest is to kind of encourage and get people ready to participate in Iron Viz, but I genuinely will say I felt this had the feel of kind of an Iron Viz exploration about it.
It does, yeah.
It's more detail to it.
It's definitely extensive, which it's what you kind of expect in Iron Viz quite often.
I think the only thing I'd possibly suggest, and I appreciate why it's been done as tabs. But potentially, if you wanted to keep with the feel of the kind of interactive part of the dashboard, you could use Tableau's new buttons to be able to navigate between the different views to make it more graphical and embedded in it rather than tabs at the top.
You could add those buttons somewhere up here, perhaps,
Yeah.
and then just do away with the tabs.
Yeah, that would be my only suggestion, is in terms of utilising new Tableau functionality. I think it would just take it to the next level.
Yeah, I agree. But it's super thought out. They thought about the user throughout this, and there's lots of instructions on how you can interact with it.
Yeah.
It's really good. Cool. We spent hours looking at this one, so I'll move on. Okay, so the next one is by Ash. So Ash is looking at NHL attendance per game. So it was a viz he actually did for Make of a Monday, I think, and then updated it for IronQuest.
So I like the a couple of the call outs of the outliers.
Yeah.
The way I thought that was done, I thought it really naturally felt as though it was part of the viz. It wasn't like this real crass kind of box over the top. I thought it just really naturally flowed in the analysis.
Yeah, I agree. So we've got the average, the top, the bottom.
The only thing, again, just thinking about ink, I just wonder if you need to repeat the seasons every chart, just because that 00010102 is the same across all the charts. I just didn't know if there's a little bit of ink that could potentially have been saved, because it's not that long a viz, in terms of is it needed on every single one of the charts.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that this could use buttons as well.
Yeah.
So you could have this initial view and then switch to the other views, because it's essentially the same thing, but framed a different way.
Yeah. So you can almost do it as one chart and then allow people to flick between the three different views of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could use like collapsible containers or something like that.
I really like the last story in terms of the call out to Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really nice, not necessarily a nice story, but a really nice call out in terms of something that specifically happened. Because amongst all of that detail, they were able to find a really cool story.
Yeah, I agree. And that would have been lost otherwise, I think, with just the dots on their own, because you can't really draw them together. Yeah. What would be good is if we had a dashboard highlight action. So if I clicked on the team, it would highlight all the other dots for that team.
Yeah.
And that might help, identify stories. But this is really good. So you can tell that Ash has worked with the data and yeah.
You go into the middle chart. I know I know Ash has compared the top and the bottom. The one thing and this is just my personal story, because when I was in New York, I went to see the NHL at the larger New York to the Rangers.
Yeah.
And I just thought it'd be really cool in that middle one. I appreciate it's the top and the bottom, but I was just really intrigued to know what the difference was between the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers, because I think there's such a different end of the spectrum, two clubs in the same city. But yeah, so I didn't know if there was any, especially maybe on one of the charts, just the ability to highlight a particular team of your choosing might have just the reader be able to engage with the viz.
Yeah, especially if you've got fans or people that want to check that their local team.
Yeah.
You'd be there a while trying to find them, I think, in this form. I'm even thinking that maybe that middle chart might work better as a bump chart, especially because Ash is called out the top and bottom. You'd see that straight away in the bump chart form, but there might be too many lines. I don't know. It's just an idea.
No, I thought really clear and really concise analysis as well. I really like the analysis.
Yeah, it's very Ash. She's got a particular style. He breaks it down into sections, so it works really well.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Okay. Next one is by Ashwin. And this is looking at world records in athletics. Let's wait for it to load up. Okay, so when I was pulling this out, the image out for this one, I thought it was really cool how he'd overlaid like the world records onto an actual like athletics track.
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So that you could hover over each and get the world record time and who currently holds that record. What it would be nice to see is that when they actually achieved that, like a date.
Yeah, and I guess, and the other thing that would be really this is just taking it one step further, so I apologise, Ashwin, that you may not have had the data for this, but if you were going to put in when it was occurred, you could also show how it changed over time, because especially 100 metres, where he's equated that to a value, you could kind of see the line's progression over time, and you can see how it comes down.
Yeah.
But I really like the analogy and the linking it back to a track. The only caution I would make is obviously the 100 metres is a sprint, the 200 metres is a slightly longer sprint, and then the 4 and 800 is moving into kind of distance, or not quite full distance. But
yeah, it's going around the track multiple times, isn't it?
So I guess is it appropriate to compare the four? Because they are all slightly different in terms of their running speeds and their strengths. But at the same time, that may not be the purpose. It may have been to just put them on a single chart so it was able to see it all in one.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'd probably make the background a different colour as well. I think because you've got so much colour going on already, I think just a white background would be fine.
Yeah.
Since the track takes up most of the space anyway.
But stuff like the triple jump and the long jump at the bottom, I thought it was really. That made me smile.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were talking. Like, yeah.
I just thought that was really cool. And again, the kind of shot put, discus and the javelin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creativity, and even just going down to the font in terms of that being the traditional records for men. But I did like the fact that for gender equality, because it's one of our commitments for Sportsviz Sunday this year, is to try and encourage women's sports data. I love the way it's done the flick, and then you can see the women's as well. Yeah.
It's not much difference, about 1 second on 100 metres at least.
Yeah, and again, when you've got the women's, again, it just didn't know if it'd be interesting to have put a slightly shaded, more opaque icons to be able to see where the men's records were in comparison.
It'd be good to compare them, but then you're not comparing apples to apples, are you? I think generally speaking,
good point.
Yeah, it's rare that you'd compare the two in that sense. They're both kept quite separate, but no, I like it. I think it works really well. It's really creative.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, some really creative different chart types to show different values. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. Okay, next we've got Brian Moore. And this is the NFL head-to-head stats.
Yeah,
this has just been everywhere.
Yeah, how long did you
spend the rest of the time looking at this one, shall we?
I would say the attention to detail in the design blew me away when I first saw it, because it was just little things such as kind of the black and the white and the crossover in the chart. I thought it was really engaging. Yeah,
that's really nice. They're doing the title that way. I just love how he's included all the icons, and it's still, because quite often when you do that, things just look messy, whereas this looks super clean, and it just works. Like all the colours tie together nicely, and it's great. Yeah,
and I like the fact that clearly the top bit of it is the kind of the shiny magpie. Ooh, what's it showing me? And it drags you in, and then there's a further analysis below that just gives you the detail. And I really like that comparison between a really visual overview and then a really detailed analysis underneath.
Yeah, it's nice because some people will prefer one or the other.
Yeah.
And some people will never be happy with something like this, whereas that, I personally wouldn't make any changes to this. I think it's great.
Yeah, I thought the whole design of it just showed such attention to detail, just blown away.
Yeah, it's really good.
Still got no idea what an NFL means and stuff like that, but I love it.
I do recognise some of the icons now, and that's purely because of Tableau.
Yeah.
So getting better.
Spencer will wind me up in November when I see him about knowing nothing about American football.
You got any plans to go and watch any for any sports in Vegas?
I think there is potentially, I want to say, a hockey game that
Okay.
people get to. So I
Okay.
think there's talk of it happening.
Okay, cool. All right, so we've got Daniel Leng, top 20 England goal scorers. So you can compare them all against Rooney, I think.
Yeah.
But it's consistently Rooney because he's the top. So
yeah. So I really like the analysis, and as a football fan, it really engaged me. The only thing when I first saw it is I was intrigued why Daniel had chosen Alan Shearer as the default comparison, and I was kind of
you got something against Alan Shearer, Simon?
Well, he's a Southampton fan, but I no, joking aside,
I love Alan Shearer.
I didn't know why he didn't choose. It's only something small, but Harry Kane as the comparison because Harry Kane's still playing. So I didn't know from a current standing if that would get more engagement by choosing a player that was currently playing.
Yeah, it seems a bit random that he's chosen Alan Shearer.
But it may not have been. It may not have been conscious. It may have just been what was there when it was published. But I really like the simplicity, and I mean that as a compliment in terms of the simplicity of the design.
Super clean. I really love this style of chart as well, because you can instantly see those standout players or ones that have had some success and then maybe that's like died off or the opposite.
Yeah, and also a lot of people when they do this kind of chart often do it by the amount of games that they've played. I found it quite interesting how Daniel had done it by the years that had been played, so it could show the length of the career as well. Because if you look at it, someone like Shearer, he was really successful. Actually, in reality, there were only 8 and a bit years between his first goal and his last, whereas Wayne Rooney played for like 13 years for England between his first and last. And I thought that was a really interesting take.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm intrigued who that was because it's that they've, didn't score many goals and then all of a sudden in a short period of time had a ton of success.
That might have been, I think, Tommy. I might get wrong.
Tommy Lawton.
He might have played in during the World War, so it might have been that long line where it flatlines when the war happened.
Okay, be good to get the actual years that they were active on here because I mean some of these are really old.
I might be wrong there though, so I apologise to Daniel. I've just completely said something that didn't happen. Thought it was. And
maybe
also,
he could have been injured. I don't know for a very long time, but
it's also interesting. Again, I don't know if you could encode this in the colour, but not every single player on this bar chart is a striker. So it's like you've got Frank Lampard and David Platt and Brian Robson who are midfielders. Again, it's just really interesting that they've been able to find their way into the top scorers when they're not actually strikers.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, just loads of really cool
So we've got so I've completely missed this. We've got loads more stuff. So we can see who they scored against, what kind of tournament it was.
Potentially on some of these, because you've got the labels, my personal view is that I would probably hide the axis header on these two charts.
I don't think you need both. Okay, here we go. Here's the era.
Yeah.
So Tommy Lawton, no, that's that's when it was during the war. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
well done on your sports knowledge, Simon.
Just passed that one live. Could have made a computer. I really like this bottom chart because encoding the size with the number of goals that were scored in the game. I thought this was quite cool. Number of goals in each year. I thought it was quite cool.
Yeah, I agree. Because some players have got a real standout year.
Yeah.
Whereas others are just more widespread. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, I really liked it.
Okay. Right, next we've got Frederick. And this is also looking at NFL game stats.
Yeah.
So he's using icons, so you can select an icon and select that team to update the viz. He didn't know anything about NFL. I remember him saying, but he used the data set from Brian.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So fair play, like, because he lives in Australia as well.
Yeah, you join the club about not knowing anything about NFL. But I know a little bit more about NFL than I do about Aussie rules, so at least he didn't visit about that.
Well, considering he doesn't know anything, like, you would never know by looking at this vids.
Yeah.
First thing I noticed is the like the size, like legend here. I'd move that out of the chart to the side.
Yeah, I'd agree. Completely agree.
Yeah, just think it's a little bit distracting there. I really like the overall, like, clean design. Like, normally I'm not a fan of borders, but I think they work pretty well here because they're quite subtle.
Yeah, and I agree. I like also the fact that he's tried to minimise the ink on the axis and the total scores for and against.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say is I think they look like text boxes because they're not quite lined up. So I don't know if there's a way that potentially you could have just done a custom axis and then done the number of marks between the different points, and you might be able to get that into a normal bar chart axis.
You're talking about these ones down here, right? Yeah, I think that one's a bit lower.
18.
Yeah, it's a nightmare sometimes doing those, getting it just right. I'd spend a lot of time on things like that.
Yeah, like you, I really liked how clean it was.
Yeah.
And the highlight as well, just in terms of the total touchdowns, I think the use of colour with it being kind of just grey in the background.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd potentially suggest is whether or not those circles would look better as Gantt lines, just because when you do circles and they're that big, sometimes they all merge into one block.
Yeah, I was going to say about the circles, about considering putting a board around them, like, similar to what we've got up here. But I don't know if that might just look a bit messy. But a Gantt line would work.
Yeah, it's just to try and distinguish between the different points.
Yeah. But other than that, it's really good. Yeah. Cool. Okay, next we've got James Fox, and this is also looking at gender inequality in sport. So I really like the overall, like, design of this.
Yeah, same as. Again, I thought it was a really cool piece of analysis. And the different, again, it just reminded me of an Iron Viz in a really good way, because the clean storytelling, analysis, use of colour, and also it just goes to prove that a fancy chart type isn't needed, because these are good charts and appropriate charts for what's trying to show.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got just enough, like, text and annotations in there to help weave that into the story, I think. He's minimised the use, like adding up extra space with the references that they're all contained here, which is nice.
Yeah, and the other thing I quite liked, I think we referenced it on one of the earlier vises around the different sections, but I think just the use of that thick grey bar to distinguish the sections means it's the first time I've seen that done, actually, in terms of not having like a full board around it and just a border down.
Oh yeah, it's actually something that you see quite a lot. The Pudding do that, in, like, when they do their long form, like, storytelling articles, they do a similar method to that. I've not seen it laid out in that way before, but it works really well.
Yeah.
There's one really minor thing that I'll change is so we're using the grey for mixed sports here.
Yeah.
The grey here.
Oh yeah, good point.
Is just the difference between the two. So I'll just maybe use a different shade or think about showing mixed in a different way. Just to avoid any confusion.
And then this is only really minor, but just consistency of language. So in some of it we refer to female, and then in others we refer to women.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll just keep it consistent in terms of. But I appreciate when we're talking about leagues, most people do refer to it as women's leagues as opposed to females' leagues. But I would just try and keep a consistent language.
Yeah. Well, then I guess you could say men, women up here, and then keep to that.
Yeah.
Because I guess you say men's football, you wouldn't say male football.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. Okay. Next one is by. Is that Jan? Is that how you say it?
I'll allow you to.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's the National Football League.
Yeah.
Just giving a drill down of the last 100 years. So I really like the overall design. The colours work well. I would just say that the red is a little hard to read on that background, especially with the bar charts in this form of just the border and not the actual filled in portion. So I'd work with that, maybe just to pick a shade that works a little better.
Yeah, I'd say that was fair.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of so the use of red or blue to compare. I get what's been done there, but if you go up to that where the Super Bowl, so you've got
where here,
red and blue being used to compare years, and underneath you've got red and blue being able to compare home and away. I think it is
right.
And it's just potentially using the same colour to encode two different things.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because you could easily assume that this was home and away if you didn't look at that bit at the top.
Or you could assume the bottom one was 1970 versus 2018 again. So I'd just be careful of using the same colour to encode twice.
Good point. Yeah. We've also got more red here, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be careful.
But I thought this was quite cool in terms of the way it was done in terms of the colour code to distinguish the people that have used it, that have won it most.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there was the need. So you've got to hover over to be able to see how many times. And I didn't know if potentially that would work better as a bar instead of just blocks of equal size.
You're talking about the tooltip?
Yeah. So if you hover over, you see it's very. I get why the use of colour, but it's quite difficult to distinguish 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and the fact that the Patriots have won it 6 times.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there could have been some use of a bar or size of the bar or block to represent the different.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could see the overall number of times on the face of it and then delve into the dates.
Yeah.
Because here there's no, I guess they're ordered.
They're ordered top to bottom.
Right, yeah, okay. But yeah, it's not immediately obvious. I'd also consider changing it so you haven't got the text going vertically, because I'm like turning my head on the side to read those. If there's any way that could be moved around, maybe in a chart.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did also thought the map was quite cool as well in terms of the custom map where they've taken the time to make the background the same colour.
Yeah,
That really made the map really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so next up we've got Kate.
Liked it so much she did 2.
I think Bo did 4.
Yeah, she did, yeah. And they were pretty awesome as well, I've got to say.
Yeah, they were. I love her visit. She's got a really unique style.
I've got to say, I love that. I love the design of this and the kind of. I think so. I don't watch it, but please tell me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming there's a slight take of Game of Thrones on this.
Yeah, she's using the Game of Thrones text. I know nothing about Game of Thrones, but yeah.
I thought it was quite cool in terms of and the way I really like the way she's embedded the images as diamonds in it. I just thought it really flowed. Yeah,
and then you've got the consistency with the diamonds below. I think it's really, really good. I spent a lot of time looking at this when she first published it. Yeah.
Completely agree with you. That consistency all the way through just really makes it feel one consolidated piece. It's not like there's images at the top, because some people would just put a square and just chuck down a picture of Novak or Roger or Nadal.
Yeah.
But the way she's taken the time saying, no, actually, I'm going to use a diamond and that's going to be consistent, I thought it was really cool.
It is really cool, yeah. It doesn't really need much or any interactivity at all, because it's all there.
Yeah,
just in the face of it. Yeah, no, it's great. I wouldn't change anything about this.
I thought that was I really liked kind of the take again on the radar chart. She's done that as a diamond. And actually, I thought the radar chart where she's made the circles really pop on the edge of it. I
Yeah,
thought really helped to outline the chart where they all overlap. Also, where they all overlap, those different
in the
circles.
middle. Yeah, no, I agree. Great work, Kate.
There was only one,
Oh yeah.
one suggestion. It was just really minor. I'd potentially order the opens by the order that they happen in the year. So I think it goes Australia,
Right.
then
Yeah.
Roland Garros, then Wimbledon, then US. And that
Mhm.
was literally that was really minor, but that was the only thing I'd suggest.
Okay. Right. Next one is by Kate again.
I love it as she goes from tennis, then she goes to American football.
Yeah, and it's completely different. So I think she lives in Montana, so it's relevant. Super simple, kind of biz, nice and small.
Yeah.
It reminds me of one of the visits that Lorna did for Workout Wednesday earlier in the year, looking at Warrington.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, well, she'd filtered it for Warrington, but it was the.
But she wouldn't feel with anyone else, to be honest.
Well, of course not. No.
you could have insulted her and said St Helens and see if you got away with it.
I don't know enough about it to be able to insult her.
I really like the way this one showed the different periods of domination. You can kind of see really nicely. So even the top one, even though I'm not going to pretend to know who the different teams are, but where you've got 72-40, you can just see that actually there was a period where the bottom team were actually quite dominant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure what the size of I'm assuming the size of the bar means they played twice that year. So where you've got some bars that are twice the size, I think that relates to two sectors. So
like here, you mean?
Yeah, it does mean they played twice. I was just checking, that was all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's nice and it's easy to.
So that was, I guess, that would have been, I don't know how easy it would have been to do. My only suggestion would be, because some people did play twice in a year, it would have just been to try and make all of the individual sectors the same, because where you've got like the team on the middle of the right where they were 20-1, where they only played each other once a year, the size of the bars are bigger than, say, the 27-17 above.
Yeah, so especially we'll look at this 72-40.
Yeah. So
they've been made smaller because of these years where they played more than once.
So my personal, it literally is just a personal taste, but I think I'd have tried to have made all of the different individual dashes the same height, so that if they only played once, you could really easily distinguish it as just a one a year.
Yeah, true. I like how it looks like a scoreboard, so you could imagine seeing this up on a wall or something, or a screen.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'd have possibly just done is try to align all of the numbers so they all started in the same. So if you look on the right, change. But
you've got them here that you've got misalignment. Yeah.
I would just try to line them up. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next we have Kelvin.
I have to say, first ever badminton viz I've seen on Tableau Public.
Yeah.
I played badminton every week, so it was quite cool.
Do you?
Yeah. Not quite as good as these guys, I've got to say.
No. It's really interesting, like use of colour and chart type here, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I've really seen anything like this before.
Yeah, because it almost, I'm trying to think of the almost a bit like a pyramid, kind of a population pyramid comparison, but quite, I'm not seeing it done before like that either.
It's just the way, with the shading and everything, I think it works really nicely.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have I guess it's a little bit similar to what Kate did.
Yeah, the year tournament.
Yeah.
I don't know what the size of I'm assuming, does that mean again that if the size is a bit bigger, then they won?
It's more than one game again. Yeah, so game 2, game 3.
Okay, so I get it now. Yeah, so it's who won. So they played each other that time, and that person won, say, 2-1 because that's a red and 1. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. One thing I'd do is just give it a little more space up here to breathe. I think it looks quite squashed at the top, and maybe a little bit more space between the elements.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. I do like these, like the step graphs here.
Yeah, and they also work really well because realistically, actually, you only go kind of up, down. So actually, if you tried to do a normal line there, it would be slightly misleading. So I think a step chart's a really nice chart.
Yeah. Okay. Well done. The next one is by Maria. This was actually Visitor Day yesterday.
Congratulations, Maria.
Yeah, second Ironquest Visitor Day this month, I think.
Yeah, this was pretty cool.
It's like amazing.
I think it was deserving of a Visitor Day.
Absolutely, yeah. I almost feel bad trying to give it some feedback now. It's very you, Simon, this chart, I think.
Well, thank you. I take that as a massive compliment.
Yeah.
About that, because I think it's a really cool chart type.
Yeah.
And also, I think with that I know some people say, why do a radial? But actually, in reality, if you did that as a straight line, it would have to take up a lot of real estate across the screen, and it would become potentially quite squashed.
Yeah.
I think actually there are appropriate uses for radial, and it's something like this where you're trying to distinguish a large number of points. I think it does give it room to breathe.
I agree. I like how she's included the tennis ball in the middle. I think while that could be distracting, I think it works nicely. And she's shown like where you start.
So that was going to be my only reflection.
Would you put it the start up here?
I would have personally put the start at the top.
Yeah, me too.
And kind of 0 degrees, but I get that's personal taste.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but yeah, generally speaking, I would start like a clock at 12.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I love the flow that it's not all charts. I like the fact that some of it is also text and a story, and I think again that's really nice.
I like how she's tied it all together with these borders and tennis ball in the end. Is a nice touch, ties it back to the title and
actually I quite like some context there. So she's put Federer, Nadal and Djokovic, but then she's also put Murray and Del Potro as the next 2 players. I think that kind of context just shows how much of a far apart the top 3 are.
Yeah. So you can change this by tournament as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting analysis, like breaking it down by surface.
Yeah, I just thought it was really cool.
And
again, I know it's only something really small, but I really like it when people do it, and the way that she's done that line chart going across the page, and it just literally goes from edge to edge on the world rankings.
Yeah.
It's just a really nice. It kind of frames the bottom of the viz.
It does. Yeah, it's really clever. Yeah, it's good work.
Yeah, really well deserving visit of the day.
Okay, next we've got Michelle Freeman. So is this the first ever Frisbee viz you've ever seen?
Yeah, and weirdly, we had a data scholar, Conrad Wilson, in our organisation. He actually plays for England.
Really?
So I knew nothing about Ultimate Frisbee before Conrad came to work for us. But now I've seen a viz about it as well.
And is he like a world champion or anything?
I'm not going to comment because I'm probably going to say something completely wrong and offend him. But I know he's really good at it. So,
well, he must be to play for England.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Okay.
I mean,
I think didn't you not joke about her doing this? Like you did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I love some of the little design techniques she did, like putting the 15 points per game.
Yeah, that's
scoreboard.
I really like that. It's fantastic.
And also little things such as only labelling in the gender in the USA. I know it goes back to ink, but the fact that she's labelled the smallest and the largest gives some context. So actually you don't potentially need every label.
Yeah, where do you mean? Sorry, here? Or
so you've labelled the 31% and then the 71%.
Right, okay, yeah.
I just thought that was quite a some people may go the other way, some people may not, but personally I thought that was quite a clever way of just being able to encode the max and min.
Yeah, no, that's nice. I don't know anything about Frisbee, so I'm just reading this.
Yeah, no, same here. I'm not going to try and comment on my Frisbee knowledge because I think that might be
Great Britain the third in the world, so yeah.
It's quite interesting. I mean, the one thing I did, not known about it, but looking at the map, I find it quite interesting. Kind of, it's clearly not played that much, or if I'm reading it right, in terms of not played that much in Africa.
Yeah.
Again, just quite interesting seeing which part of the world it's kind of come to and gone.
Yeah.
Where it's gone around the world.
It's pretty popular in like North America and Australia and parts of Europe, looks of it. Yeah, it's a great web. I really like it.
And actually, you don't often see very many green, and I mean this in a positive way, you don't really see many green backgrounds.
No, you don't. But I think with the white text and the grey and the black, it works well.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to say. Just with the use of if she'd have done too many colours, it would have looked, I think, quite difficult to follow. But just that simple use of green, white, and grey and black, she does work really well.
And she's kept consistency with the fonts and the titles as well. And in the bands, they all tie back to that font at the top.
Probably find they're a Frisbee font that we should know, but
probably, yeah. Okay, next we have Paul. So this, you know more about this than I do, much more.
I think this was Paul's.
So
I think it was his first ever Sports for Sunday and Iron Quest one as well.
Yeah, and this is looking at the Melbourne Storm National Rugby League.
Yeah, so it's Rugby League, so we need Lorna on the call for this.
We do.
But no, so the one thing I think I said it to Paul on Twitter, I really like the use of the number of minutes in the shirt.
Yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really clever way of showing how long they'd played. And then again, so when you look at it, actually what it is, I guess, is a collection of icons to represent the games that he played. And I thought it was quite a clever way of, there's a lot of white space, but actually at the same time, if you take the time to read it, you can actually see quite a lot of story in terms of how he changed over time. So that run of games at the end of the season, after being injured, and you can just see that very clearly.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and you can see how he's performed over time really clearly as well, and in a quite innovative way.
Yeah. So I quite personally, I thought the amount of time it must have taken Paul to pick up those different icons and make them fit, make them.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It did pay off, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice. It's nice how he's tied that colour back to the jersey colour as well. Yeah. Purple.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, next we have Riddy.
I love this one.
I do love it. I love the use of colour and how it's all tied together.
The only thing I didn't know if I was, so I might be being thick here, so I apologise. What do the dots? Oh, so they are stories. Because when I looked at it on Twitter, I was like, "What are the dots?"
I thought, because I thought, is it parts of his body? Yeah. Like, I was thinking, when you have those like science graphs and person. No, it's just facts about him, which is it's cool.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really nice. I thought the consistent use of colour was really quite cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just by using that colour to highlight him versus everyone else, and it's quite subtle, but it still works.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think this is a really nice way of showing cricket kind of data. I don't know all that much about cricket. I should do. My dad's a cricket umpire, professional one.
Oh, cool.
But I've ignored it all my life.
The only thing I wasn't sure about the colours was the highlighting of 2016-17 in orange on the
here
there, because I get that it's a different team, but in the charts to the top, he had used orange to
represent him.
best Dhoni. Whereas in the chart down here, used it to highlight when he was in a different. I think when they're in a different team.
Right. Okay.
And I get it. I just didn't know if it was slightly confusing, because when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that's Dhoni in the years, but then I realised actually it was relating to a different team.
Yeah, because he moved from Chennai Super
Yeah.
Kings to okay. No, that's a good point. I don't think you need to call it out with a different colour. I think because we're talking about him and not necessarily the teams that he played for. I don't think it's really relevant.
I think he might have done something. I might be wrong here, so I might about to be saying something completely wrong here. But I think he achieved quite a lot when he moved to that team for the 2 years. So whether or not that's why it was called out, but no,
maybe some annotation then, if that's the case.
Yeah. But no, I just love the simple design of it and the simple use. Even most cases, you wouldn't think about putting yellow, blue, green, and orange on a chart, but because the rest of the viz is yellow, actually, I think those colours work quite well.
Yeah, and I like this. You've almost got like a marginal histogram going on here.
Yeah,
which works really well. Okay. 3 left. Next up, we've got Simon looking at Tiger Woods.
Is this another viz of the
This is a viz of the day. Yeah, this is the first one this month. I spent a lot of time looking at this. It's really fascinating. So it tracks Tiger Woods' career.
Okay.
So this one, like when he had the back surgery and dipped out for a bit. And I think this is really, really nice. You can see at a glance.
Yeah.
Like what's been happening in each of those years.
Yeah, and also the use of colours on that is so easy to spot kind of the dominant period because
yeah, totally. And although often red is quite hard to use against a different colour background other than white, but I think this works really well. Just the light teal kind of colour in the background.
And there's an awful lot of analysis and even little things such as taking the shape icons of the actual shape of the trophies for those masters. That's genuinely right.
Yeah,
and I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really, really good work.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we've got Swagat. So this is looking at just at Barcelona and almost like a fantasy football team.
Yeah, so it might have been you that said this on Twitter, but I think I might have agreed with it if it was you. In terms of, I think a radar chart might work really well.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, because you're looking at almost like their traits.
Yeah.
And quite often with sports wizards, you show that as a radar chart because you can see better at a glance, I think, how they compare and where their strengths are. I think we had a little bit of a conversation, so I think he was considering doing that, just working out some like technicalities. But yeah, no, I think it's just because the red and the bars take up quite a lot of ink.
Yeah.
And as a radar, I think they would look a lot more like visually appealing.
I'd agree. And I think the other thing I'd have probably done is just on the labels for the goalkeeper is just to make it shorter, just remove the GK off of diving, handling, positioning and reflexes because it's already in the goalkeeper section. So I don't think you need that double reference.
Right, yeah. You could even compare more players again. If you had the radars, you could put them on top of each other. So rather than having the reference lines, you could just overlay them.
Yeah.
A little like how Kate did with the Masters. Not the Masters, sorry, the tennis, that championship. Yeah, no, I like it. That's just the one thing I'd change.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, last one is Will Strauss.
I thought this was super cool design. I love the exclamation marks on the call out years. I thought I'm not sure I've seen that done before.
I missed that. Where's that?
In the top 2 bars, you see you got a little exclamation mark.
Yeah. That's really cool. I've not seen that before.
Yeah, I thought it was quite a fun way of doing a double encoding, because I guess it's a custom shape,
Yeah.
but really cool way of doing it.
Yeah, there's so much on this Viz, yet it still works.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd probably just give it a little bit more space. Like, these charts are incredibly close together.
Yeah.
And just space it out a bit, but I wouldn't actually change the design at all. I think it works really well. I think because you've got in the NFL, you've got those like really bold kind of bright colours and bold text.
Yeah, I think the only thing I might have done is just remove the grid lines on the those charts there for
These ones. Yeah.
I get why, because it separates it, but I just think you've already got the icon to the left and the difference in colours. So I just think potentially you don't need the grid lines to separate it. But again, that's just a personal preference.
Yeah.
And I love the that head-to-head. I thought was quite a cool kind of matrix.
Yeah. He's packed a lot of information into like a small space.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, great work. And thank you for being the 100th participant as well. So
is he the winner of the book?
He won the book, yeah.
Just
the 100th ever entry into Iron Quest.
Cool. That's a cool achievement in space of a year.
Yeah, less than a year, January. Yeah. Okay, so that's it, I think. Yeah. So thank you everyone for taking part, and hopefully we found the feedback useful. And yeah, feel free to iterate on your visits when you have time. But yeah, thank you, Simon, for joining me.
Thank you for joining Sports Viz Sunday for the month as well. Was it the biggest Iron Quest month?
It was. You beat business dashboards. That was a raining like month before.
Yeah, I think it's so just put it in perspective as well, it's our biggest ever Sports Viz Sunday month as well.
It was. Okay.
It's phenomenal.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, currently business dashboard, clearly sports are more popular than business dashboards.
That's really.
Just in case you were worried about that.
What struck me as well, just going through the feedback, was the amount of, it was lovely. It wasn't just all from one area or from one gender. Just the diversity of the entries was really cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's nice how like people like really like chose like players from like her home country and just focusing in on them and sports that are more important to them personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool. Okay, well, thank you. And I'll see you soon, no doubt.
Yeah, we'll do. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.